Today's story is submitted by Danny from Florida. It's truly heartbreaking what happened to his wife. Before we get into it, make sure to subscribe, and if you have a story to share, my email is in the description. Let's begin. My name's Danny. I'm from Florida originally, but I've been living in Pattaya for a few years now. I'm not the kind of guy who usually shares his story like this, but I think some of you might understand why I feel like I have to. I'm 62 now. I retired early at 54, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. My wife Amber got sick, real sick. She was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and we both knew the clock had started ticking. We had always talked about retiring in some tropical paradise one day, maybe Thailand, maybe somewhere near the beach, but life got busy and the dream got shelved. Then suddenly, we ran out of time to wait, so we packed up, left everything behind, and moved to Pattaya in 2017. We thought maybe we were crazy, doing something like that while she was battling cancer, but it turned out to be the best decision we ever made. For a while, we lived the dream together, until the dream ended. Amber passed away, and I wasn't ready. I didn't just lose my wife, I lost my direction, and that's when I made the worst mistake of my life, which cost me a lot of money, but also something way more important to me. Amber and I had been married for almost 30 years. We met in Jacksonville back in the late 80s. She was the smart one, worked in education, had the kind of laugh that made strangers smile. I was the guy with the tools and the stubborn streak. We were a good match. We used to talk about retiring early, selling everything, and moving somewhere with ocean views and mango trees. But you know how it is. Mortgages, jobs, aging parents, responsibilities. Life got in the way. The dream was always someday. Then, one day in 2016, Amber was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, stage 3. Aggressive, but not hopeless. The doctor said she'd need surgery, chemo, and a lot of rest. It was like someone pulled the emergency brake on our lives. Everything stopped. That's when she said it. If we're ever going to live that dream, Danny, it has to be now, before I can't. I didn't need convincing. I took early retirement the next month, sold the house, cleared the storage unit. We gave away furniture, packed 2 suitcases each, and booked a one-way ticket to Thailand. We landed in Pattaya in early 2017. Not exactly the quiet little beach town it used to be, but we stayed in Yomtien, which was calmer. We picked a condo near the beach with big windows and a view of the sea. Bangkok Hospital Pattaya had good reviews, and Amber felt safe knowing we had access to quality care nearby. Chemo wasn't easy, but Thailand helped soften the blow. She fell in love with the markets, the flowers, the food. She'd get foot massages 3 times a week, and we'd spend evenings walking the beach, watching the sky turn pink and orange. There was this one day, just a regular Tuesday. We were sitting at a seafood shack near the pier, picking apart grilled snapper with our hands. She looked at me and said, "I know this isn't how we pictured it, but these are the best years of my life." That stuck with me. Even with the treatment, the medications, the hard days, she smiled more in Thailand than she had in years. I saw it in her eyes. She was really living, even while fighting to stay alive. We visited temples, fed elephants, even took a trip to Chiang Mai once when she was strong enough. She loved the night markets there, all lit up like Christmas with the smell of lemongrass and incense in the air. She kept a little notebook where she wrote down moments that made her happy, sometimes just one sentence. Danny surprised me with mango sticky rice today. Walked without pain this morning. The water was warm. I felt free. That notebook is still in my nightstand. For a while, it felt like we'd beat it, like we had cheated the clock and made it to our dream, even if it came with bruises. But time doesn't forget, and in the end, neither did the cancer. When 2020 rolled in, we were already used to living day by day. Cancer teaches you that. Every good morning feels like a gift. Every bad day, just something to ride out. But we didn't expect the whole world to stop with us. Thailand went into lockdown fast. I still remember the day they closed the beaches and made everyone mask up. Tourists vanished overnight. Bars closed, streets emptied, and Pattaya, this wild, buzzing city, turned into something else entirely. Quiet. For some people, that silence felt like a prison, but for Amber and me, it felt like peace. We stayed inside for the most part, cooking Thai dishes she found on YouTube. She loved trying to perfect pad krapao. We'd sit on the balcony in the evening with a drink, watching the empty roads and listening to the sea. She said to me one night, "This might sound strange, but I love this version of Pattaya. No crowds, no noise, just us." And it really was just us. The city slowed down. And somehow, so did the fear. She was still getting treatment, chemo every couple of months, but the breaks in between were gentle. No pressure to go out, to pretend, to be social. It was just recovery and us. I remember one morning, early, we walked along the beach right after they lifted the restrictions. No vendors, no chairs, just smooth sand and the sound of waves. She took her sandals off and walked slowly through the shallows, looking out at the horizon. She said, "If this is my last chapter, I'm glad we wrote it here." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. There was a stillness in those days, a strange grace. The world was falling apart, but for us, it felt like we'd finally carved out a little bubble of peace. Just long enough to breathe, just long enough to pretend we had more time than we did. But cancer doesn't care about lockdowns, and neither does time. Amber always said she didn't want to die in a hospital. She meant the kind back home, cold, sterile, machines beeping, nurses too busy to look you in the eye. But here in Thailand, it was different. The nurses at the private hospice centre near Sukhumvit knew her by name. They brought her jasmine tea, held her hand when I stepped out to cry. In early 2022, her scans came back worse than before. The cancer had spread to her liver and lungs. The doctors said we could try another round of chemo, but it wouldn't buy us much time. Maybe a few months, and they wouldn't be good months. Amber looked at me and said, "I don't want to spend my last days sick from medicine. I want to feel the sun on my face. I want to taste food." So we stopped treatment. We made every day count. Even when she was weak, she insisted on sitting out on the balcony for the sunset. I carried her down to the beach a few times, just so she could put her feet in the sand. Her appetite faded, but she still asked for mango sticky rice every other day. She couldn't finish it, but she liked the smell. Said it reminded her that she was still here. One night, maybe 2 weeks before the end, we lay in bed listening to the rain. She whispered, "You gave me the dream, Danny. Even if it came too late, you still gave it to me." That was the last time she ever said my name. When she passed, it was quiet, peaceful, just after sunrise. I was holding her hand. I'd like to believe she felt me there, even if she couldn't speak anymore. The hospice nurse lit incense and laid white flowers at her feet. I sat there, numb, watching the smoke curl into the air. The woman who made my life beautiful was gone, and I had no idea what to do with the time she left behind. The weeks after Amber passed were a blur. I didn't leave the condo, didn't eat much, didn't talk to anyone. I sat with her photo in my lap most nights, just staring out the window, listening to the waves I couldn't hear without her voice beside them. People reached out, friends back in the States, a few neighbours, a couple of expats I'd met during the years. I ignored most of them, but one guy, Paul, a British retiree I used to play chess with at the beach, kept showing up, brought food, talked to me like I was still a person and not a ghost floating around my own apartment. After a few months, he knocked one evening and said, "Mate, I know it's not your scene, but a few of us are grabbing drinks on Soy 6. Just come out, sit with us, you don't have to do anything." Soy 6. I knew the stories, didn't judge it, but it was never part of my life. That wasn't the Pattaya Amber and I knew, but something in me was too tired to keep saying no, so I went. It was loud, red lights, music pounding, girls calling out from every bar like they already knew your name. For a second, I wanted to run, but I followed Paul into a quieter spot and sat down with a beer. A girl sat next to me, not pushy, not aggressive, just smiled and said, "You look sad." I didn't say much, just nodded. She took my hand and held it, didn't ask for a drink, didn't ask for money, just sat with me while the others laughed and flirted and got lost in the music. She asked where I was from. I told her my wife had died. She didn't react like most people, didn't go silent or say sorry, just squeezed my hand gently and said, "You strong. She lucky to have you." For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was drowning. Nothing happened that night. No hotel room, no promises, just a few drinks and someone next to me who didn't feel like a shadow. When I got home, I felt guilty, but I also felt human again, and I hadn't felt that in a long time. A week later, I found myself back on Soy 6. I told myself it was just to see the guys again. Just a few drinks, just a laugh. But the truth is, I wasn't going for the drinks. I was going because for a few hours, the grief lifted. For a few hours, I didn't feel like a man who lost everything. I just felt normal, or close enough to it. This time, I went alone. I stopped at one of the quieter bars and ordered a beer. The girl behind the counter smiled, and I smiled back, but it wasn't her that caught my attention. It was the one sitting at the edge of the bar, legs crossed, long black hair, not calling out to anyone like the others. She just watched the street, sipping a soda. Her name was Jin. She was from Udon Thani, up in Isaan. Told me she moved to Pattaya to support her mother in Nice. She had that gentle way of speaking that makes you lean in just to catch every word. Didn't try to upsell drinks or wrap herself around me. Just asked me questions, real ones. How long you in Thailand? What job you do before retire? What you cook when you cook for someone you love? That one hit me. I ended up staying there for hours, just talking. She laughed at my terrible Thai. She showed me photos of her little niece. Told me her dream was to open a beauty salon back in her village. Nothing fancy, just something small where she could be with family. She didn't say she loved me. She didn't say I was her everything. But she looked at me like I mattered. And that was enough. Over the next few days, I kept coming back to see her. We'd go for noodles after her shift. She'd hold my arm while we walked along the beach road. I started waiting for her texts in the morning. Simple stuff like, "Good morning, Danny," or a selfie with her dog. One night, she leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "I feel safe with you." That's all it took. I let my guard down. I stopped thinking. I broke the 3-day bar girl rule. You know the one. Never see the same girl more than 3 times. Every expat warns you. But I thought Jin was different, and maybe that's exactly what she wanted me to think. Once I let Jin in, I went all in. It started small. I brought her flowers one evening, nothing fancy, just some orchids from a vendor near Turkum. She lit up like I'd bought her a car. Said no one had ever done that for her. The next week, her phone broke. Cracked screen, she said, barely working. I offered to help, and we walked hand in hand to a shop near Central Festival. I bought her a new iPhone, mid-range, nothing extravagant, but it still stung a little when I handed over my card. She hugged me and whispered, "You're too kind." It felt good, dangerous kind of good. We started going out more, seafood dinners on Beach Road, lazy afternoons at the spa, a trip to Koh Larn where she held onto my arm during the boat ride like I was her whole world. She never asked for anything outright. That's what made it worse. She just talked, casually, about her mum being sick, about needing to send money home, about how hard it was to work every night when her heart wasn't in it. One night she cried, quiet tears on the balcony while we looked out at the lights, said her buffalo was sick and she didn't know what to do. Didn't ask for money, just sat there and cried. So I sent money. That same week, I skipped a trip I'd been planning to Chiang Rai. I told myself it was because I didn't want to leave her alone, but the truth was, I didn't want to risk coming back and finding her gone. I was already hooked. Looking back, I was chasing something that wasn't real. Not love, not even comfort. Just the illusion of closeness, and Jin gave it to me in exactly the right doses. She let me believe I mattered, that I was special. And maybe for a moment I was, until the payments stopped being voluntary, until she started getting distant when I didn't give, until I realized that her affection had a meter running the whole time. I told myself I was healing. I told myself Amber would understand, but I wasn't healing. I was paying for a performance and pretending it was love. It didn't end with one big betrayal. That would have been easier, cleaner. It ended slowly. At first, Jin just took longer to reply to my messages, said she was tired, said she had to help a friend, said her phone was acting up again. I brushed it off. Everyone gets busy. But something had changed. When we met up, she wasn't present. She scrolled through her phone while we ate, smiled less. The hugs were shorter, the laughs quieter. She started saying things like, maybe I'll go back to Isan soon. Nothing for me here. And then one day, I woke up, rolled over, and checked my phone. Blocked. No warning. No explanation. Just gone. I went to her bar that night. They told me she didn't work there anymore. Said she left a week ago. I asked if they knew where she went. The girl behind the bar just looked at me like she'd seen it 100 times before and shrugged. She find new man, she said. Sponsor. I didn't want to believe it. Not Jin. She was different. She cared. Right? A few days later, one of my friends sent me a screenshot. There she was, smiling in a beach selfie, somewhere in Phuket. Same pose she used to do with me. Only now she was wrapped around a guy who looked like he'd just walked off a cruise ship. That's when the math started hitting me. The phone, the dinners, the gifts, the rent, the buffalo, the hospital bill, the late-night transfers, the cancelled trip, the gold bracelet she had to pawn and I replaced. All in? Over $20,000 USD. But honestly, it wasn't the money that gutted me, it was what it represented. I wasn't just played, I let myself be played. I ignored every warning, every gut feeling, every sign. And worse than that, I disrespected Amber. I gave my heart to someone who saw it as a bank card, and I couldn't even tell you when exactly she stopped pretending. But when she did, she vanished without a trace, and I was left staring at a balcony made for two. Alone. After Jin disappeared, I hit a wall. It wasn't about the money, not really. You can always earn more, save more. It was the shame, the feeling that I'd let Amber down, that I'd taken everything we built, every moment we fought for, and traded it for cheap attention and empty smiles. I stopped going to Soy 6. Stopped drinking for a while too. Couldn't stand the sound of clinking glasses, couldn't stand the smell of perfume that wasn't hers. I deleted Jin's photos, blocked her number, even though she'd already blocked me, threw out the necklace she'd left behind in the bathroom. It wasn't revenge, it was grief. Grief that had changed costumes, but never really left. It took time. I walked more, started cooking again, bought a bicycle, made new routines, quiet ones, morning beach walks, coffee by myself. Books I'd meant to read for years. I found a small group of expats who weren't chasing bar girls or pretending they were 25. Guys who'd also lost something. Wives, health, time. We started playing cards once a week. Nothing fancy, just company. I began to feel like myself again. Sometimes I still talk to Amber, not out loud, but in my head, she's there. When I see a sunrise she would have loved, or hear a song she used to hum. I feel her beside me. And I think she would have forgiven me. Not for being weak, but for being human. I don't go looking for love anymore. I don't need to. What I had with her was enough to last 2 lifetimes. And what I chased after, well, that was a lesson. An expensive one. But I learned. Now I live life on my terms. No illusions, no games, just peace. And peace, I've learned, is better than any rush. Thanks to Danny for sharing such a personal story. If you got something from it, make sure to subscribe and check out the video on your screen right now for a story of a simp that lost it all. And if you've got a story of your own you'd like to share, send me an email. Details are in the description.